are plenty of GT cars at the 2024 FIA Motorsport Games. We've had the GT discipline. There this year is GT Single Make and GT Sprint. And the GT Sprint competitors are out on track for the qualifying session, which takes you to Superpole. That effectively is Q2, where it is single car, one at a time. So this part, which is just under 20 minutes remaining, is for the drivers to establish a time, yes, but what they're doing in that is the order in which they will be released in reverse for Superpole. So it will go one car at a time, and at the moment the gamble is when you go out to do that lap, because track conditions are a little bit indeterminate, because we've had a little bit of rain falling in the last hour or so. Qualifying underway for GT Sprint, and drivers this morning, when they did free practice, had a dry track, if a cold one. Now, David Addison and Joe Osborne looking trackside at a circuit that has been a bit damp rather than fully wet in the recent touring car race. But for the drivers, they're all being very tippy-toey and learning about where the grip may or may not be, as you see a sideways Germany in the background.
Yeah, there's really not a lot of grip out there. The previous race, touring car TCR race, they were 8 seconds a lap slower than their dry times, and that looks very similar at the moment for these GT3 cars. Junqueira for Spain here as we go to the United Arab Emirates car coming in. Change of tyres there. What are they putting on? Is it another set of slicks, or is it a set of wets? It is a set of wets. So the UAE are saying that is too slippery, and I need to get some wets on. The Superpole information about going in reverse order is, I think, going to be even more important than ever, because the track is only going to be drying at the moment. So the faster the track gets at the end of that session, the easier it will be to be on pole position. So I think this session is going to be pretty frenetic, trying to get a lap time. But at the moment, I'd say the lap time is going to come towards the end as we go on board with Team Turkey. We ran on board with this car in free practice. I can still see some raindrops falling on the windscreen, but not as heavy as they have been for the last hour. So I think the track should be drying. Even though there's drops of rain, they are evaporating quicker than they're falling. But Turkey and Arjen Guven struggling to find any grip whatsoever. They look pedestrian, don't they? Jafar in the background for Malaysia. Big snap of oversteer there. That's a purple sector 1.8 seconds quicker. But that is a good 5.5 seconds slower than what they got to in the full dry conditions this morning.
So Arjen Guven in the Team Turkey Porsche, accelerating towards us, doing an absolute best in Sector 1. Just going back to the UAE, going onto those wet tyres. Saif Al-Ameri, new to the track, new to a GT3 car, so perhaps more than anything for an inexperienced driver, it's just giving him the comfort. It may be more about that than the fact that the track is really wet.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of his racing is done in his home region, and they don't get as much rain as we do here. So, yeah, confidence there. Look at the big power slide. Traction control working hard, trying to limit the amount of wheel spin. Are we going to use any of the curb that we saw him use yet, or tried to at turn 12, and then a snap of oversteer made him migrate away from that apex, even through the easy flat 13. It's definitely not easy flat at the moment. Fully cold tyres, remember, on these cars at the start of all of these sessions. Tiptoeing into 14, a lot of understeer on the way in, then normally oversteer on the way out. A bit more balance on the throttle, I think, for the Porsche there, but definitely tricky. It's going to be the fastest lap of the session at the moment, a 2:04, and that is a good 29 seconds slower than the best this morning.
As to the pit lane comes Finn Wiebelhaus, who had been looking good on his lap, but Bales, even they did an absolute best middle sector. So Finn Wiebelhaus and also Danny Junqueira for Spain. Now, both of those cars, different nations obviously, but ran out of the same team, Haupt Racing team operating both cars, and they both decided to come in. Now, is that because they don't feel it's worth persevering? Is it because they need a tweak to the car? Are they going to let other people be out there and help to dry the road for them? Downside is it's not the biggest of grids, so actually there aren't that many people drying the road, and if you're not out there, you're not adding to the number of cars.
Yeah, I think they're going to put wets on. I think with the lap time being so far off, and with only 12 minutes remaining, there are the wets to the left of the shot. I think they're going to have to bolt them on. Not particularly much urgency is the only oddity in this. The track is declared wet, so they're allowed to put them on. I can't think of a reason why they're not getting them on as quickly as possible to give both Germany and Spain in these Mercedes as much time as possible to set a lap. I'm drawing a blank on why they're sat there doing nothing.
Now for the United Kingdom is Darren Lung in number 91 Ferrari. We normally see him in a BMW, but as he was making the point earlier on in the day, when you've got relatively little running, half an hour of free practice and then straight into qualifying, it would have taken a long time, he felt, to get the BMW dialed in as he would like it. So the easiest thing to do, therefore, is piggyback somebody else's setup. So the setup is what Chris Froggatt and James Cottingham have used Friday and Saturday in the GT discipline. He now uses that setup in a car that he doesn't know, and then just to add to the complication, he's given a damp track.
Yeah, I think you've got to get on wets. I think the UAE here, the first car we saw put the wets on, has really shown what is possible. As we start to get some sectors, we'll be able to see there. But there we go, purple sector 1. That shows you slicks are not the option in Germany. Spain needs to get those tyres on and get back out there. So does Darren in the United Kingdom car, was on slicks. He needs to come in and get those wets on if he wants to be at the sharp end of the grid. Yes, it's his first time out in the car around here, but very fast in free practice 1 for Darren Leung in the United Kingdom car.
Ayhan Guven is also doing purple sectors in the Team Turkey Porsche. Now, when we were on board with that, it looked very Larry, so interesting to see what tyres he's gone on. Absolute best sector 1, now absolute best sector 2 from UAE. And Ayhan Guven, the fastest man on track. He's done a 1:56.1, but we'll see how that lap time compares against this. Now, in terms of tyre, what Guven is on, this will give us an indication, because we know this car has gone onto wets, and Saif Al-Amari for the UAE comes out of turn 14, heads up towards the timing line. It is a 56.1 to beat. He's going to beat it, but by how much? Good old gap, a 1:53.3, so that is 2.8 seconds.
Yeah, so every sector a wet tyre has done is purple. So it's a clear illustration of that. Running a little bit wide at turn 1, careful of the exit curb there. Can be very, very slippery as we see Spain venturing back onto the track as we go very deep on the brakes. The car has ABS, so it wouldn't have been locking the front axle, but maybe there just the feeling through the brake pedal given to the driver was, this isn't happy, I'm not going to turn in. But conditions obviously treacherous. Be interesting if Antonio in pit lane can see or can ask what tyres Germany and Spain are on, because now we have less than 10 minutes remaining to set this qualifying order.
And also Turkey as well, because Guven is still pushing on. Is he on slicks and trying to get them up to temperature? I can't believe if he were on wets, he would be slower than the UAE.
Agreed, he's definitely on slicks from the onboard we saw, and the tyre temperature is now getting there. What do I think is going to be the quickest in 9 minutes time? I think it's 50-50, because if Guven can still get some tyre temperature and it will keep getting quicker and quicker, then it is slick tyres. There isn't any spray whatsoever, so it shouldn't be wets, but it is cold, it is greasy, and I think that's why if I was in the pit lane now as a driver, what would I want? I think I would choose wets on what I've just seen, but then Turkey is still able to do a lap time, so it really isn't an obvious choice.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, Ayhan Guven is a bit of a star. There for Spain, Danny Junqueira. Now let's see what he can do.
They are definitely slicks as well. I can see from the tyre wall. So, and you can see the hands working behind the wheel. So he's made his decision. I wonder if Germany did the same as well. But yeah, just coming in, they've had less laps than Turkey by 3 laps less. What are Chinese Taipei putting on the car there? Slicks have come off, and it looks like that is... that looks like the wet tyre to me from what I can see. So yeah, the slick coming off there, and they're taking the full set off, and there are the wets that they're about to bolt on.
Right, okay, so Chinese Taipei at the moment slowest. We need a lap out of Germany as well. That's Danny Junqueira, Spain, going through onto a flying lap now. It's worth following this. You can see how tippy-toey it is, even down to turn 1.
Yeah, the driver's really not any confidence under braking at any point of this lap at the moment. The purple sector's being traded between the Porsches, between UAE and Turkey. Junqueira in deep there, almost all the way off, but then Turkey taking purple sector 2. So is it a story of part of the lap is quicker on wets and part is on slicks, and whatever percentage has the higher skew is the tyre that you should be on at that point? But Junqueira, zero grip to him at any point at the moment. How's his first sector looking? Not particularly quick at the moment, and yeah, the time is draining away at an alarming rate for some of these drivers.
It is indeed, isn't it? As up towards turn 8 comes Spain. So Ayşengüven back to the top for Turkey, 1.3 seconds to the good last time, 1:52.020. But in fairness, he has been out there from the start, working that car, working those tyres, and he is now in the pound seat, whereas Saif Al-Ameri's last lap was a 55.2, and he's going slower in the middle sector of this lap as well. Jonquidea a little bit quicker than he had been. He needs to be as well. Others are in the pits still trying to deliberate. This, remember, gives you the order for Superpole. It's the Superpole time that determines the grid. But right now, drivers just wanting confidence, never mind a good time.
Yeah, just another factor I've just thought about is that Superpole's straight after this. So if you are going to do Superpole and slicks, do you put slicks on now in this qualifying session to get them warm and maybe qualify lower down than ultimately if you're on a wet tyre? But Superpole is where it matters as we go on board with Jonquidea. That blue screen on the centre part of the console. I actually went and spoke to the team about what that was because I've not seen one before. And they're telling me it's the tyre energy. And so when I asked them to elaborate on that, they simply couldn't or wouldn't. So you can see the number is low. When it was good, it went green, and when it was bad, it went red. So we're starting to look at that a little bit more. But these are all the teams working hard at all times to make sure they're at the front end of any technology available. So maybe something we'll start to see more and more in GT racing is tyre energy. You heard it here first.
Indeed so. Finn Wiebelhaus, gold medal winner yesterday for Germany in the Haupt Run car. Jasmine Jaffar has been doing purple sectors for Malaysia. Saif Al-Ameri has done purple sectors before he pitted for the UAE, and Ayşengüven has done the best lap of the session right now. Jonquidea second, Finn Wiebelhaus here for Germany third, but the margin 4 seconds between the top two, but only a tenth second to third. In other words, Spain to Germany. It's those three nations that are going to be arguing over the medals. They're going to be arguing over pole position as well in Superpole. Here is Germany then up towards the line. To go second, Wiebelhaus has to find 0.186 of a second. Is he going to break the beam with that in hand? The answer is yes. He has now done a 1:49.1, and that means that he's only 0.3 down from Turkey. Slicks are working.
Yeah, still 17 seconds off what they did this morning, though, so they are working better, but not the best. Look at Jaffar. What's that tyre there to be 3.8 purple in Sector 1? I haven't seen him come in the pits recently, so I wonder if he has just got his slicks into the window. Let's have a look how the car's looking. No, that is a wet tyre. I can't see any yellow on the tyre wall. That's my indication. The Pirelli P0, very dominant on the slick, but not on the wet Cintero Pirelli version of the tyre. So he's obviously able to get it there. I think what I would do now, my strategy that keeps coming to me as I change my mind, is bang this lap in on wets, come in for slicks, get some heat on, and then be the last out for Superpole, but with some warm tyres after doing your fastest lap time on wets. Yeah, that's my final option with 4 minutes to go.
But you've now made so many pit stops, you've run out of time in your session.
Yeah, but now I'm on the right tyre at the right point.
Only if you've got time to set a lap at the end, you see, because you pitted more than once in that.
Don't be negative. I'm a driver, not an engineer.
And quickest on a wet is Jasmine Jaffar for Malaysia, a 1:42.959. That's 5.7 seconds quicker than anybody else. So right now, that would put him as the last one to go in Superpole, and they've rolled the dice nicely here. But it does mean that if they do go slicks for Superpole, they're going to be cold slicks. You've got one warming up lap, 2 flying laps, and then you go, that's it. That's your session done. So going back to your earlier point about the slicks, yep, those that are using them now will have the warmth in them, whereas Jasmine Jaffar there had done that time on wets by quite some margin. What is Wiebelhaus doing? Well, he's going quicker, so the road drying, the tyres coming up to temperature, but he's still got a lot of time to find.
Sector 1 is the wet sector, isn't it? 3.3 loss there, 7 tenths in Sector 2, and then only a couple of tenths in Sector 3. So the track drying from the reverse end as we saw the rain come in the opposite way in the touring car session. But yeah, I'm glad you realise that I'm right with my strategy now on what you should be doing. And slightly odd, the Superpole, that there isn't a tyre oven. So even if it was dry, there is a delta to be found just trying to find where the tyre pressure should be as we go to Jonquidea coming towards the end of his lap. There's that Sector 1 that's really hurting Jaffar's purple on the wet tyre. But yeah, I think we're going to see a slightly different order in Superpole to the qualifying order we're being shown right now.
Over the line goes Dani Jonquidea, and he's up to second fastest, and the margin is 3.7 seconds now between Malaysia wets and Spain slicks. Now, the session has got under 3 minutes to go. Is it going to dry enough in 3 minutes for Malaysia to go and put a slick tyre on?
It's not to go faster, but there's time where I would be boxing this lap. I would have actually boxed the lap you've just done, because you're on pole by 4.2 seconds, Malaysia. Come in, get those slicks. Every lap you're looking to build probably 15 or 20% of your total target. So you are looking to take 3 to 4 laps to get them in their operating window. And if we box this lap, we might just get out and get an out once passed. So the tyres will be 40 or 50% there. Look at the slick tyre of Germany. Purple in sector 2, but still miles off in sector 1. Can I have my last strategy decision potentially for Superpole? With it being 2 flying laps, is there even enough time for the slick to be faster at the end of Superpole? Maybe not. Maybe wets are still going to be quicker at the end of Superpole. The times are tumbling. We're now 14 seconds off a dry time. Remember, that started at 30, dropped to 18 a couple of laps ago, now at 14. There is definitely a split strategy at play here, and I'm just glad I'm sat here, not in the car at the moment. See Junqueira going relatively slowly through that final sector. Is he just trying to find a bit more space? He's got about 400 metres of space. The next car in front of him is just going through the final corner at the moment. So looks like he's just building it up. He hasn't timed it great though, because look at the clock. There is time for only just about 1. In these conditions, you and your engineer play a game of ping pong of radio communication. And you're saying, I want to cross the line with a couple of seconds to go, so it means I'm the last guy on track, so I will have the best possible conditions as we go to Guven. That gap in sector 1 diminishing now to 1.7. Purple in sector 2, like we've seen the slicks loving it. I think this could bring the gap down to overall pole to maybe under a couple of seconds by the end of it. Let's see what Team Turkey have got. They crossed the beam. This clock going up and up, all the way up to first. Slicks are now the fastest, so I'm glad I would be on slicks, was my decision. But everyone is now on their last few laps.
I've lost complete track of what your decision was here.
The right one.
The right one, naturally. Well, you've got 33 seconds of the session, give or take, still to go. And slicks were working early on. Then it seemed to go back to wets, but the slicks that Ancient Guven has used, putting him to the top, and by 0.391 of a second. Now, there is Jasmine Jafar for Malaysia. He's still on the wet. He's second. But when he goes out on a slick, if that's what he uses for Superpole, it's going to be a very cold one. Chinese Taipei here. That's 5th for Peter Yang.
Yeah, we saw the car out yesterday, didn't we? And had a couple of interesting starts, contact on both. They finished both races, so it wasn't too detrimental. See Junqueira there on the timing screen going purple in sector 2. Same car as this Chinese Taipei, Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. Looking like he's got good traction out of the final corner, breaking the beams, going to take the checkered flag this lap as well. We have elapsed our time for qualifying.
Indeed so, and that gives you the order. It's the time set in Superpole. I'll explain that in a moment or two. That will determine the grid. Darren Lung's not had a mega session, only 6th here. But again, having to learn about the car and in these conditions, not perfect for him. Ancient Guven's coming up towards the checkered flag, so it's provisional pole for Turkey. Takes the checkered flag, goes over the line, and it was a 142 as a best. 142, 131, battered by 139, 600. Darren Lung in the pits in the Ferrari. Germany, Finn Wiebelhaus coming up towards the line, and he was quicker in sector 1, quicker in sector 2.
It's going to be tight here. This is definitely going to lift him up from his current 4th place position. One of the last cars on track, still pushing, so track conditions are at their absolute optimal here. All marginal gains, but when the gaps are this close, anything that you can do to help try and keep the shortest distance to the line, stay on that white line to the right. Any centimetres is time that you've got to do, and that puts him all the way up to second, 0.8 of a second off pole.
Does indeed. So that gives you Turkey, Germany, Spain. We're still not sure the order come the end of the race, are we? But those are the 3 nations we anticipate will be fighting. So we'll go through the order in a moment, and then the teams are going to get ready for Superpole. Now, what will happen is that each car will be given a start time. You have 10 seconds of a window to be out of the pits of that time. So if you are not on the track within 10 seconds, then you will be penalised accordingly. You do an out lap, you do 2 timed laps and an in lap. It is the quicker timed lap that determines your time, determines your grid position. So you get 2 laps to do effectively one mega lap time. So you do an out lap, a kind of start-up lap, I guess, to get a bit more warmth in. Then you really go for it, and then an in lap. And it is the times out of Super Pole that will determine the grid. What has just happened is the order in which they will be released in reverse has been determined. So this is the order of how they qualified. From top to bottom: Turkey, Germany, Spain, Malaysia, Chinese Taipei, United Kingdom, UAE and Lithuania. But they're going to go in reverse. So Lithuania will be out first. From the UAE, United Kingdom, then Chinese Taipei. Malaysia will be the next team away. Sixth to go will be Spain, then Germany, and then it is going to be the Team Turkey Porsche as the last one to go. And it's going to be another enthralling look as we see the cars one at a time out on track. Ayhan Şengüven for Turkey, Finn Wiebelhaus for Germany, Dani Junqueira for Spain, Jasmine Jaffar for Malaysia, Peter Yang for Chinese Taipei, Darren Lung for the United Kingdom, Saif Al-Ameri for the UAE, and Alimantis Navikauskas for Lithuania are going to be the drivers.
Yeah, so the UAE did a fair amount of change, didn't it? Started on slicks, went to wets, went back to slicks. So a lot of sighting laps there for what's about to come up. But yeah, just 2 opportunities to post a lap time. Very stressful, very high pressure for the drivers. 1 track limit on any of those laps means that lap is null and void. So potentially 2 slight misdemeanors in running a little bit wide, and you're not going to set a lap time. Do the drivers go over banker lap to start with, nice and safe, and then do they go for a banzai? Or do they go with a banzai, see how it goes, and then if they need it, revert to a banker? It really doesn't matter which way you do it as long as you're fastest. And yeah, a lot to think about for these drivers. Condition-wise, teams will be monitoring tyre pressures, just making sure they're in the right window. They'll be having to start them slightly higher than they would for a normal session because it's so short. Why is that? Well, the tyres take a while to warm up, and the pressure follows that suit as well. So easy to get wrong, hard to get right.
So the team's getting set for Super Pole and still deliberating what to do in terms of the right tyre choice. On a really greasy circuit, qualifying for GT Sprint got underway with the teams, with the drivers really unsure as to whether it was going to dry out enough for slicks to work or whether they needed wets. And those that went out on slicks early doors soon found themselves really struggling for traction. The UAE team, one of the first to put wet tyres on the car, and it really helped Saif Al-Ameri as he was quickest for a time. Having done the best lap, though, on his following one, he discovered just how lethal the road could be, slithering out wide at turn 2, but Al-Ameri getting himself back on track. They did pit again and go onto slicks, though, as the road started to dry, and the more laps you did on the slick, the more they started to warm, the more they started to bite. In the end, Chinese Taipei came through to be 5th fastest. 4th, after doing the time on wets, was Malaysia. The early confidence just not there on the slick tyre for Jasmine Jaffar. Dani Junqueira was 3rd quickest for Spain, having persevered on the slick, and eventually they just about turned on enough for him to go into the top 3. Behind Germany, Finn Wiebelhaus taking the 2nd fastest time, and the top time went to Turkey. Ayhan Şengüven persevered to get the heat, to get the warmth, get the confidence through those slick tyres, and after a pretty leery start, Turkey quickest in qualifying before Super Pole. So then, it's reverse order. It's Lithuania to go first. And your tyre choice, bearing in mind you can't pit now, bearing in mind you've got to commit and go for it, is?
Pirelli, I would say. It's got to be a slick with what we saw in the final throws of the session. Showed how quickly the track dried. So yeah, the teams, I think, would put those slicks on the car now to try and get some of the heat from those hot brakes radiating through. But we still have some time, don't we, to the start of qualifying. So is there any more rain in the area? I don't know. That's going to be the other consideration.
Now, Ayhan Şengüven was the hero of Q1. Ayhan Şengüven fastest, and he's with Antonio Rankin.
What an exciting qualifying session we've got here so far. Coming into the Super Pole, what are you going to be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit wet on the beginning, but we stick with the slicks, and yeah, last lap was the quickest, but the Super Bowl format will be interesting with the cold tires in 2 laps. So yeah, let's see if we can bring the temperature on the tires and have a good starting position.
Now, you were one of the only cars that stayed out on the slicks and everybody else went onto the wet tyre. What was the meaning of that?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Good to know. Yeah, I mean, we stick to plan. I know it will come in 1 point, so I think it come the last lap. So I didn't know, but props to the team.
Clearly the right decision. Best of luck in Superpole.
Isn't that, though, an illustration of the benefit of being a regular in the car that you're driving? I know there are some nations that want to come and take part in the FIA Motorsport games. Their driver may be new or inexperienced in GT3 terms. This, though, is very much the pro driver category for the most part. And there you've got Ancient Guven, Porsche specialist. He knows exactly what to expect from the car and when.
Yeah, it comes across almost arrogant, but he didn't mean it in that way. I didn't know. It doesn't matter. He didn't even ask the question. He was that confident. Yeah. He was on the right tyre at the right point that he just hacked around, betting faster and faster until he got to that last lap, and that was enough for pole position. So job done. Why stress yourself with what everyone else is doing if you are adamant you're on the right path?
So the team's now getting ready to go. The time is 10:53 and at 11:02, so we've got about 10 minutes, give or take. We're going to have the first car out on track. So 11:02, plus or minus 10 seconds, will be when Lithuania can go out. Navikauskas behind the wheel of the car. And then it'll be the UAE, UK, Chinese Taipei, Malaysia, Spain, Germany, Turkey. So building up to the quickest drivers. So 6th to go for Team Spain is Dani Juncadella. He would really like a pole. He'd like a gold medal as well for Spain. He's with Antonia right now.
Danny, coming into Superpole, how much would it mean to take home a gold medal at the end of the day?
It would definitely be very special. You know, it's the only race where you truly represent your country. You can win a medal instead of a trophy. That doesn't happen very often. So, yeah, rather it be gold than anything else.
Now we can see how many fans are out here to support you. They're just above us on the terraces. Is there an element of pressure to perform for them?
There is always pressure in motorsport. I think I'm quite used to it after so many years. But for sure, it makes it all even more special when you race at home. I haven't been here, funnily enough, for 13 years. So it's pretty incredible. But it all looks the same. The track is the same. And yeah, pretty excited to put on a good show for everyone.
All the best. Thank you very much.
That's quite something, isn't it, to not be at one of the circuits in your home country for 13 years. But Dani Juncadella, even when he was racing in GT World Challenge Europe, tended to do endurance, not sprint. And it was the sprint rounds that most often came here. So Antonia making her way down the pit lane. Go and find somebody else to have a conversation with. Finn Wiebelhaus at the other end of the pit lane, just next to Dani Juncadella for Spain, of course, was a gold medal winner yesterday, and that confidence will be there. But a really interesting entry. Good to see one or two of the drivers that perhaps we don't see enough of in Europe, like Jasmin Jaffar. You know, he raced in World Endurance Championship, raced in the UK in his junior single-seater days, but there's so much racing in Asia these days. He's certainly been busy, but you know, there's so much of it, it doesn't all get on the radar.
Yeah, that's the whole nice concept of the FIA Motorsport Games, isn't it? To welcome everyone from across the globe. Here you have the United Arab Emirates as well. Like Malaysia, a lot of racing going on in every corner of the globe now. But to be able to consolidate it over one weekend and bring everyone together is a super great concept and idea.
Now let's go back to the pit lane for Chinese Taipei is Peter Yang, Mercedes driver with Antonia.
Lau, as we sit waiting for Superpole to happen and all of the anticipation building, it's quite a difficult session to master. How will you approach it?
Yeah, for this track right now, I think the weather is kind of cold. And it's hard to get the hot temperature with the dry tires. So I think it's hard to improve for lap time. So I'll try my best for the quality. Thank you.
How do you have to adjust your driving style when the track is like this, when we've got certain areas that are a bit slippery?
Yeah, maybe braking early and just feeling more about the car and need to like turn in the TC and ABS for the setup too also. Yep.
And if it is like this for the race and you do end up having good pace, do you think it will be able to translate?
Right now, because for quarter two, I only got 2 laps, so we're also using the rain tires right now. So I'm thinking about the final race. Still depends on the weather and the track also.
We'll have fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Peter Yang, or Liao Yang, ready to go. Many, of course, of the drivers from Asia take a Western first name, and Peter Yang, there you've heard from. The Lithuania Audi. I think I'm right in saying that is from the Juta racing team that we've seen in a number of endurance categories, and also Carrera Cup GB for a time. And Alimantas Navigatas is going to be the driver of that car. He's going to go first. All the eyes are going to be on him. In fact, a lot of pressure is going to be on him because he's the pioneer. He's on slicks, and everybody else is going to be fascinated to see his lap and where the grip is and where the bat wags.
Yeah, he is the yardstick, isn't he? And 10 seconds is a big gap, but if the outlap have different deltas, if drivers are pushing or not, I wonder if we're even going to see cars catching each other as we look at the Ferrari for the United Kingdom, run by their AF course team, the Ferrari team across the globe. Obviously, run the hypercar program for Ferrari in the FIA World Endurance Championship. They run this 296 GT3 in the same championship. LMP2 cars, Ferrari Challenge cars, whole series for Ferrari Challenge in the UK, for example. So, yeah, Darren Lang for the United Kingdom has picked a very strong team there for his Ferrari exposure in the GT racing.
So as we look down the pit lane, let us go back to the pit lane. We've been talking about how good it is to see Jasmine Jafar back racing. Well, let's hear from him.
Jasmine, first of all, we've got a fantastic atmosphere around this weekend. Have you been having fun?
Oh, it's been an incredible event. I think from the opening ceremony right out to race day, it's been swarming of people and it's been great.
How is it to represent Malaysia? It's so nice to see you guys at the forefront of GT racing.
Yeah, it's my first time actually, especially for the GT team. No, I really enjoyed it. I feel proud carrying the flag, and the competition is very high. So I'm looking forward to see what we can plan out.
Have you ever raced here before?
I have a long time ago in Formula BMW and Formula 3. It's been a while since I got back, but it's nice to rekindle back the memories.
So some fond memories of the track then. How will that lend itself to the race and to Superpole coming up?
I think the weather has been a huge challenge. It's changed drastically the last couple of days. So we have to adapt as quickly as we can with choosing the right tyres and temperatures.
Now the modern GT3 car that you're sat in now has quite a lot of aerodynamic capabilities. Does that relate a lot to the single-seaters that you've raced in before?
Yeah, it's a lot more relevant now. There's a lot of aids as well, traction control, engine braking and so on. Yeah, we've got to find the right setting to suit us to get that performance.
Thank you very much. Best of luck.
As I say, really good to have Jasmine Jafar back in, if you like, a European environment, but he's been busy in the GT World Challenge Asia, in the Asian Le Mans Series. He did, of course, have a few seasons in the World Endurance Championship and, go back to its original title of the time, the Blancpain Endurance Series. We saw him in a few years ago. So Jasmine Jafar for the Arrows Racing Team for Malaysia is going to be ready to go very shortly. He'll be the 5th driver out on track, as here at the Valencia circuit, we're nearly ready for Superpole. Cars in the pit lane, clock ticking on down. We're about a minute and a half away from Superpole. Superpole for GT Sprint at the 2024 FIA Motorsport Games. Each driver will go individually. They will have an outlap, 2 timed flying laps and then an in-lap, and it is your better lap time that will count for the grid. What has gone before is irrelevant in the sense only of it giving you the order for Superpole. It's the time, the better of the 2 times set now, that will sort out the grid.
Yeah, and conditions changing as well. And we saw good overtaking yesterday's GT race, but it is a track where grid position is very imperative. So everyone will be max attack, making sure they're getting some tyre temperature and then pushing as hard as they can. But let's just remember the track limit issues around here at Valencia. Everyone's going to be wary of going too fast, too wide out of some of these corners.
Drivers staying in the cars. Interesting, isn't it, that although they've had sort of 10, 12-minute break, nobody really has ventured out, gone for a walk, stretched their legs. They've all stayed in the car, staying in the zone.
Yeah, stay away from distractions. You can close the door, put the visor down. It's quite a good universal signal to any of the team that you don't want to talk or don't want to be bothered. Just pop your visor down, pretend you're asleep, and you can just go into your own little trance of what you're about to go into in this Superpole session.
Now, those of you that join us for GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup, or the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli, will no doubt be familiar with the concept of Superpole. So it is one at a time. It is your better lap, and the first one to go then is for Lithuania. Elemantas Navikauskas makes his way out on circuit. So the first lap is to get warmth into the tyres. In these conditions, in fairness, probably the first push lap even, you're going to write off. It's the second one, barring a mistake, that's going to count.
Yeah, and even think by the end of the second, the tyre won't be perfect. It will be at its best, as we see a big snap there, and the tyres stone cold. Quite a long gap in between the two sessions here. Still looking pretty gloomy on track. No spray coming out just yet of these tyres. So I think we are fully in the slick window now, but tyre temp is everything. Accelerate, brake, I'd want to see a bit more energy from the Lithuanian driver here in terms of that, because you just generate so much energy hard on the throttle, 550 horsepower, then slow this 1.2 ton car down, and you can generate so much heat that way. It's actually, I'd rather be going a bit slower as we see the United Arab Emirates leave in their Porsche GT3.
Now, for Lithuania, it was a 158 before, just by way of a guide. It was a 153 for the UAE in the Porsche, so there was quite a gap between them. And Navikauskas now is the driver who is going to set that benchmark time for us as the Audi wriggles its way up towards the end of the lap, generating tyre temperature all the time. There's not much weaving going on, but he is trying to, as best he can, put warmth into the tyres. He's been a top 3 finisher in touring cars in the Baltic Trophy. He's also won, and did you ever know there was such a thing, of twice he's won, in fact, the 1,006 kilometres of Palanga.
It is one of my favourite races to watch. I turned it on almost by accident once, and I saw these GT3 cars racing around a motorway environment using junctions as corners, service station as the pits, and it was brilliant. I got hooked to it. I watched about 4 hours straight, I think, as we see the United Kingdom leave. They are going to be leaving turn number 1, I think, as Lithuania come into shot now, so potentially Darren's got to keep an eye on his mirror there, not to impede Lithuania on their first push.
Right. Bear in mind, a 58 is a slow lap, but that's the guide of what they did earlier on. So our first time is going to come from Lithuania, and fair play to Darren Lung. He doesn't just get out of the way, he virtually parks the car. So the rest of this lap is his to own, his to work, his to get the warmth in the tyres. But for Lithuania, Elemantas Navikauskas now is on the money. Are the tyres warm enough? Well, we're going to see the sectors. Really, he's going to go purple everywhere because he's the first man, but it's purples after that for the subsequent drivers that are going to be more relevant. It's still a little bit tippy-toey, isn't it?
You can hear the wheel spin coming up as well, so traction control struggling to harness that car backwards. Yeah, we're a good 7.5, 8 seconds off our ultimate in Sector 1. You can see the car pushing, going through the gears. Is he flat? Let's listen into the engine. Sounded pinned through T7, so confidence there at high speed. The downforce that Antonio was talking about to Jasmine Jafar, so good in these GT3 cars. So as you get above 100 kilometers an hour, it exponentially grows that downforce grip, and it really gives you a lot of confidence.
Navikauskas is under investigation for his pit exit time. If he didn't leave within the 10 seconds allowed, then that may well be a penalty brewing up. So Elemantas Navikauskas, the regulations are quite clear. You're given a start time, and that's the UAE in the gravel. So he understeered off there, didn't he, in the qualifying session, Saif Alameri, and the UAE in the gravel. That, I fear, would be a red flag. There's a yellow flag being shown. They're going to give him time possibly to try to dig the car out. The one decent thing about wet gravel, no, red flag. I was going to say it compacts and sometimes you can reverse out. Well, what does that do? Because Navikauskas has had a lap. I'll go to my regulations in a minute, but here, Joe, coming up, a replay of how the UAE got it into the gravel. It's at turn 2 again, but you can see the 11s on the line, the witness marks. He's had a big lockup, presumably.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen. We said about it in qualifying earlier, didn't we, that he didn't turn in because it looked like he felt like it was locked up, but the ABS has either been turned off or has failed. Watch him hit the brakes, front's just locking fully, and as a driver, it is impossible in a modern GT car to feel it. The cars are designed from the ground up to have ABS, so the brake master cylinders are so powerful that it just doesn't give you any feel as a driver through the brake pedal. So the first time you know you're locked up is you either see the smoke or you realise the car's not turning, and there isn't enough time to then release the brake pedal to get those front wheels rotating and able to turn in. So yeah, I'd love to know why the ABS wasn't working, but it definitely wasn't.
Should a red flag take place during Superpole, the following principles will apply. I won't bore you with all of them. All cars must return to the pit lane. Cars which have finished their first flying lap,
which no one did,
which was Navikauskas, because he got across the line. He's been given a lap time. he will be able to do 1 flying lap, but not 2.
I say no, he didn't, because I thought Race Control did a very good job throwing the red before he got to the line, but maybe...
He's crossed the line twice, so he must have done an out lap and 1 flyer.
Yeah.
He's been shown as doing 2 laps.
I just thought the red flag normally neutralises the timing to stop drivers trying to get to the finish as the red comes out. But yeah, I think he's the one that's been hard done by the most. I can't remember in my short memory of a red flag during a Spa 24-hour Super Pole. So this is quite new to all drivers and teams.
It is, isn't it? So he's under investigation anyway for the pit exit time. But Elementes Navikauskas having a 1:47.323. Now, he's been given that time, but let's just see whether or not the lap should have been timed. There's the red flag. Yeah, so he comes up over the line and he actually lifts, doesn't he, before he gets to the timing beam. So he would argue, therefore, no, that lap shouldn't be counted and I should go again.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Did everything perfectly there. Red lights were on early. Couldn't have made pit entry. I think I could see him think about it, but it probably would have caused an accident as we see the Porsche leaving the scene of his accident, so to speak. Not too much gravel coming out of it, but shaking it. Now, regulation-wise, can they carry on in the session because they have caused the red flag, and most series now have a regulation that if you are the cause of the red flag, you may not continue. So that might be their session done, and they're not going to get a chance to register a lap time in that number 7 United Arab Emirates Porsche. So yeah, that could be a tough start to the day. All cars are going to be back in pit lane in the next 40 seconds, and we're essentially going for a full restart. The timing screen now has been fully cleared, so we don't have any lap time. So I think Lithuania have been given back both opportunities to set a lap time with their 2 flying laps, is how I would say it is looking currently.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the lap time was counted because the system just hadn't quickly enough completed the process of not counting that lap because he was so close to the beam. So he had been given the lap time, but you're right, it's all been reset and he will go again. So a 1:47.323 was with a big lift anyway. I'm just looking at the regulations to see whether the UAE car is going to be allowed back out, and it is not telling me that.
I guess it either will or won't be, won't it? And they'll find out that way. A nice detail I've just spotted on this car is actually on this side where we can see on the door is written in Arabic, and on the left-hand side written in English. So they're very accommodating to all the viewers at home there.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much common on most, isn't it? On one side, you've got the nation in the language of the country. So you'll have Germany on one side, Deutschland on the other, for example, and it's a kind of thing.
I've realised on day 3.
Yeah, well done. You're not here just for your looks, you know. So I'm impressed that you knew what it said in Arabic. Down the pit road comes Saif Al Ameri then for the UAE. It might say go home Osborne, you never know. But Saif Al Ameri causing this red flag, and now the team will say either you sit there and we'll go again, or forget it.
Yeah, there'll be communications between the teams, Director Race Control via the SRO app, just asking the question if they're not sure. If it's not in the regulation, you'd have to ask. It's definitely not worth just going out hoping for the best, because that might really peeve Race Control. We may even attract a penalty ahead of the race as we look down at that Porsche team getting to work, just speaking to the driver, maybe just checking where that ABS setting is. There will be lots of different settings allowed on that. Generally 12 settings of ABS on the Porsche, so and one of them being off, and maybe it just got flicked off in the interlude in between the sessions.
Now, the UAE has been given a new start time. The first car will be out at 11:14. It's just gone 11:11. So the UAE has been put back in the list and not, therefore, withdrawn, if you like, not taken out. The regulations say if there is a red flag, all cars must return to the pit lane. It doesn't specify that if you are the cause, you don't go back out. It doesn't say you can go back out, but it doesn't say that you can't.
Not that there's your ABS error alarm. So it's one of the more common errors actually to get in a modern GT3 car, because the ABS is all done on wheel speed. Each corner of the car has a wheel speed sensor. If one of them falls over or fails, it fails and just turns off. And that's what we're seeing here. It just locks the fronts, car doesn't turn, and by the time we've realised it's too late to release the brake pedal. So maybe the alarm was on the dash, driver didn't quite spot it, but yeah, the reset process and those front tyres as well are going to be horrible to drive. I think that's what he was demonstrating with his hands there, and that won't be particularly pleasant to drive over the next couple of laps. But as a driver, it's always my job to cheat and not be sportsmanlike. But so if I cause a red flag in a super pole on my first fly, if I haven't had a very good sector, can I just cause a red flag and then reset and get 2 more laps every time?
The regulations do not say you can't go out again.
So at the end of every first fly, if I'm not happy with my lap, I cause a red flag.
Well, the UAE Porsche is going to go out at 11:15. Plus or minus 10 seconds. So it's there. It's been given a start time. And hopefully there will be no such dramas second time around for Saif Al-Amari. You've got the idea of this, though, now. You've got to push. And it is possible just to overstep the limit ever so slightly. Last one to go will be Ayin Şengüven for Turkey. First one back out will be Lithuania, who does kind of gain an advantage. I know some of the temperature's gone out of the tyres, but at least he's had a look and a feel of the circuit.
Yep, he's got the hottest out of all of them. United Kingdom, the same as well, and Chinese Taipei as well were also out there. So slight advantage to those guys. Marginal gains, probably 5-10% warmer tyres than the cars that didn't get out at all before that red flag. Yeah, I think it's definitely a positive worth having in your back pocket.
So there is the Porsche, which lots of people sort of look at with a pointed expression. Drone up the pit lane, you can see there the Chinese Taipei, the Spain and Germany Mercedes AMGs, and the Turkey Porsche out of the Schumacher CLRT stable. It's a different Schumacher from the Formula 1 Schumacher family, but the CLRT bit, Cum-Ledegar Racing Team. And as a squad, they've had an incredibly busy season running Lamborghini Super Trofeo cars, running GT4 Alpines, running Carrera Cup, running Porsches in GT World Challenge Europe. Now this, the team has just taken on a huge amount and had some great results over the course of the year. It is 11, 14 and 15 seconds, and that's late out of the pit lane, isn't it? Because now it's 11, 14, 22. You've got 10 seconds to get out of the pit lane. They're late again.
Yeah, it's administration errors. It is stressful for the team at Spa. I know the engineers, it's their least favourite part of the weekend is having to deal with exit times in Superpole. But yeah, I'm trying to think of a legitimate reason why they might have got that wrong. But I guess you can go, at least they're consistent. That's twice now at the start of Superpole that they've missed their time slot. It isn't negatively affecting anyone apart from we've lost a bit of time of the session, but we should have plenty of time for everyone to get their lap in. Porsche is back out, so they've been allowed on their way. Hoping the ABS is now working. The drivers will always like to just check that little left foot brake just to give the brake a pump to make sure it feels all right, and then a hard stamp to make sure that the car is stopping in a timely manner.
Cars which cross the pit exit line before or after the time they should have left the pits will be given a penalty by the stewards, which will be equivalent to the time by which the car missed the window. So if you're 10 seconds late, you get 10 seconds added, 4 seconds late, 4 seconds, and so on. It will be equivalent to the time by which the car missed the window and will be added to the car's fastest lap. So if you're late out by 20 seconds, you're going to have 20 seconds added to your time. It's not 20 seconds from the time, it's the end of the window, which is 10 seconds, if you see what I mean. So you've got 10 seconds grace to get out. Anything over and above that is going to be added onto your lap time. Ultimately, it may not happen for our graphic in this because it will have to be ratified by the stewards. They'll have to check all the data, what is the clock right, so on and so on. But I think straight away Lithuania here is on the back foot.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that regulation at a dinner party. It was interesting and harsh in equal measures when...
interesting one for you.
Relatively, I guess. That when we saw a jump start in the TCR race that only got a 5-second penalty, being 5 seconds late for your slot and attracting the same seems harsh to me, but what do I know?
I'm thinking. Navikauskas for Lithuania then, on track. Now he can push. This is the flying lap, the first flying lap. He almost got a flying lap in, didn't he, before? He was credited with it, but it shouldn't have been done. So Navikauskas now heads up towards the exit of 4 and 5. This little short straight. Car working hard. We're getting more warmth into the rubber as he accelerates around this lap. Of course, he's going to go purple, purple, purple on this lap because he's the first guy through the timing beam. On track, you've got, as you've seen, the Porsche of the UAE now starting a flying lap as well. So interesting to see whether it's going to be Audi or Porsche, whether it's going to be Lithuania or UAE doing purples.
Yeah, Lithuania's purple 2 seconds quicker than their first attempt, so it shows you more confidence, more grip coming from the track. Now it's getting to a drier and drier state, so interesting to see where that goes.
Lithuania, pit exit time under investigation.
Well done, David. Very exciting news for you and you only. Coming through into the final sector, through turn 13, flat all the way through. Where does he pick his braking point? A little early for me, just because the car wasn't fully straight. And I think we've got a bit more time there if we get a chance on this second lap to keep pushing. We're going to be breaking the beam. What's this going to be? Probably a 142, 143, 141.7. I think we're going to be about 8 seconds off by the time everyone's done their first lap.
But he should go quicker. Now for UAE, Alameri not as quick in sector 1. He's gone green, not purple. Really, every sector you do has got to be purple, hasn't it? It's got to be better than the guy before, or guys, it's got to be better than the lap before as well. And it's green and green for the UAE. This is Darren Leung then. He's heading to the end of the first sector for the United Kingdom. The second lap is going to be the one to look for now for Lithuania. So he has a 1 on the left of his graphic because that is his position. He's the only person from whom we've had a lap time, but that is going to change in a moment as the UAE comes up. Purple again for Lithuania. 141.7 to beat for Alameri. The UAE Porsche does a 142.207.
Yeah, I think Chinese Taipei going to beat that by the looks of it, but maybe going to catch them. I bet that UAE Porsche feels like it's holding onto a jackhammer. Those front tyres must be vibrating horribly.
Look at the United Kingdom. Darren Leung, absolute best sector 1, and Navikauskas has therefore not been able to do a purple in the first sector, and the Porsche's off again at the same corner. In and out of the gravel goes Saif Alameri. He is having a nightmare up at turn 2. Purple for Navikauskas in sector 2. Darren Leung is in sector 2 as well. And don't forget, Leung is doing purples on his first lap on cooler tyres than the Audi has got for Lithuania.
Yeah, he's doing a mega job. This is going to be a really good showing, especially by the time he gets to that second lap. Interesting to see why the Porsche struggling so much at turn 2. That's 3 times we've seen him really struggle to get the front of that car in. So I can only assume he's struggling with a braking reference as Lithuania finished their last lap, 138.9. Good to get sub-minute 140, but I think Darren here is probably going to be mid 136s, 137s, maybe. Where do we cross the line? 136.6. Great lap from Darren, and he's got 1 more to go.
He has, so he's quicker than anybody else on his first lap. So, yep, as the road dries, the road's getting quicker. He will go faster again. Saif Alameri has, because of that moment, gone slower in sector 1. So his second lap is virtually an abandoned one. For Peter Yang for Chinese Taipei, first push lap, so he's going to go well in the first sector, but he's slower than others in the middle. So you kind of, with respect, ignore what's going to come from the Chinese Taipei Mercedes in terms of pole position. Another lock-up from Alameri. Don't forget, he's never raced GT3 before. This is all new. Is he going to get to the end of the lap? He is, but he's really not enjoyed this Super Pole competition. The lap time for the UAE is a slow one. It's a 146.359. So he will count his first lap. The Lithuania lap, that 138, he's going to have potentially a penalty added to it anyway. Right, what does Darren Leung do? 136.685 last time, and he's heading down to turn 11 here.
Yeah, I think he's on track for a 133 if we can keep the final part of the lap tidy on board with him. Now looking great, attacking the throttle hard, coming into turn 12 as we cut to Chinese Taipei, getting into the apex. Nice, coming out on back to Darren, T13 coming into the final corner. 2 purple sectors, 1 corner to go. Car looks great, balance looks nice. Can you get the car into the apex? Team United Kingdom happy, out he goes.
Up to the line, so the time he did on his first lap was a 136.6. It should be quicker, it looks quicker, and as he breaks the beam, it is quicker, a 134.488. Really good job done by United Kingdom's Darren Leung. 134.488. Jasmine Jafar, though, for Malaysia. He's pushing, look, green and purple.
Yeah, really good early pop as well. He's still got a lap to go after this one too. Bit of traffic in front. Is that going to affect him? Nice, way too wide out the last corner. That lap will be deleted to track limits, I'm sure, for Malaysia.
And the team manager of Lithuania being summoned to race control for the pit exit investigation. So I think he's banged to rights rather than being investigated. Peter Yang for Chinese Taipei, heading up towards the end of a second lap.
He's on wet tyres, I'm pretty sure, from what I can see from the outside there. So they've obviously thought they're not going to get the heat in.
That's Malaysia. Jasmine Jafar in the gravel. That's going to be another red, isn't it? That's at turn 1. So Jasmine Jafar has dropped it. And look, Danny Juncadella had done 2 purples, but I fear the red flag is coming. Can Danny Juncadella got to get across the line? No! Red flag comes out, and straight to the pit lane comes Juncadella. He will be furious.
We saw Malaysia run wide out the last corner. They trumped that into turn 1. That is a big lose. My guess and prediction of why, I think we've probably got Greasy on the way in. We've slung out to the right-hand side to use the pit exit to open up turn 1, which has held the water for a longer time. You can see the painted area there, wetter, and I reckon the rear has come round very quickly on that Lamborghini. And you can see it's probably skipped through the gravel, then dived in. That car's going to be full of gravel. And because he's started his second flyer, I believe that is going to be his session done. He's not going to be allowed back out because he is on his second lap in the gravel. I'll let you read the regulations, David, to enlighten us and enthrall us.
No, because you'll only be rude to me again, so I'm not going to bother now. You can keep guessing yourself. I'll keep it as my little bit of information. Darren Leung heading back to the pit lane. He had done both of his laps and has gone fastest thus far, but yeah, Jasmine Jafar is so far off the road, he's almost having to pay to get back in, isn't he, there? Let's try and piece it all together, assuming it was being greedy with the throttle, not some sort of failure. But look in the background, he's lost it as he comes into shot. That's a big, big moment. So maybe got onto the wetness just on the paint coming into turn 1.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, because the way it came back in real fast, yeah, a couple 100 kilometres an hour, I think, as he came into shot. But yeah, I wonder if there's a bit of splitter damage there. Can you see on the right corner, it looks like a chunk's been taken out of it. It's definitely not symmetrical, is it? So I think some damage to that car. So even if they are allowed back out, was it just covered by gravel? Actually, I think it's in so deep, the gravel has actually covered the front of that carbon fibre splitter. But yeah, there's going to be quite a few kilos of gravel inside that Lamborghini.
Right, Jafar was on his first flying lap. He had just started a flying lap. So he'd done his out lap, but he had not done a time. So the red flag halts the session again. This is rapidly becoming the world's longest qualifying session as the Lamborghini is dragged rather unceremoniously out of the gravel. That's the bit where the team looking at the television pictures shout in horror, isn't it? Thinking, don't hurt my car, don't do any more damage to it.
Yeah, especially backwards as well, because none of the components, bodywork, aerodynamic-wise, are meant for it. So Darren is done, isn't he? He did his 2 flyers,
yes.
And that is why he is pole, and he's done a good job. Juncadella didn't get that lap in, but at least gets both bites at it still. There's going to be a lot of head scratching on from teams here of what they've got left, what they can do, what the teams want to do with tyre pressures, for example. So, yeah, considering we've never had one in Spa, a red flag, the teams, drivers, struggling these conditions, this pressure. I think it's a mixture of a few factors as the car finally makes it back to terra firma.
I'm laughing because poor old Jasmine Jafar has had his lap time and next lap time cancelled. Turn 14 for track limit offences. I don't think they can do him for turn 1, but the poor bloke. So he ran wide coming onto the pit straight, and it's the current and next lap at turn 14, because obviously you run wide there, you get all the momentum for the next lap. So you do a good one that you're finishing, and it helps you for the next one. But it's all a bit academic anyway, seeing that he then plunged into the gravel.
Yeah, he was second, wasn't he, with the lap that he lost with the track limits. But yeah, that's efficient as we see the car pull away, dropping gravel everywhere. I assume he's going to drive backwards into pit exit. I assume that's what the marshals... No, they've told him to turn all the way around, so we've got to do a full lap here, probably 3.7 kilometres still to do, spraying gravel all the way around this circuit. Drivers will be looking at this, just seeing as they attack for the first couple of goes they get it, is it going to be affected by some force majeure gravel? can hear it dropping out, can't you? And see it now as well. It's
rockery, anybody?
Yeah, slippery, and even for later on, if a car runs off, could that go through someone's radiator? There's a lot of aggregate being dropped.
Well, so far, United Kingdom has provisional pole position, and Darren Lung, the driver, is with Antonia.
Darren, one of the few people who managed to get a full lap in there. Congratulations on provisional pole.
Yeah, rule one, keep it on track, I guess. that's all you can really do in these conditions. Just wear the tyres hard as you can, and then just try and get a lap in and see where you're at. The track is now fully dry, I'd say. There's only a few spots that are a bit damp. So yeah, I'd love to give it another go now, but you know, I've got my laps in, and yeah, fingers crossed for a bit of rain.
Would you say that those wet patches are the main challenge on a circuit like this in these conditions? Because we've seen some people struggle with getting the tyres up to temperature.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously it's quite cool today as well. So just getting heat in the tyres is quite tricky because everybody only gets the one prep lap. So yeah, for sure, it's tricky for everyone.
And if you do manage to start on pole position, it's a very short race, obviously, a sprint race. How will you manage to stay there?
Don't know. We'll figure it out later on.
Good luck, thank you.
Not something we planned for.
Darren Lung being pretty self-deprecating. Bearing in mind he's a bronze driver, really. He's taking on manufacturer factory pros here. That's quite something. But he's a very shiny bronze, is Darren Lung. He has done a huge amount of racing this year, and he's been a very fast learner, never mind being a very fast driver.
Yeah, in a real short time, and another one of those Ginetta students and graduates that's gone all the way through. Obviously, British manufacturer Ginetta, a huge racing scene in the United Kingdom, and give her a great platform for amateurs like Darren with zero racing experience to get into motorsport and then go all the way to the heady heights of the highest available GT World Challenge, FIA World Endurance Championship. It's been a meteoric rise for Darren Lung.
There is Finn Wiebelhaus, who is one of the young guns, burgeoning talent in GT racing. He's had a sensible year, really. He's quietly got on with a domestic championship and is yet to sort of go, if you like, onto a fully international platform up until this weekend, where he's adapted very nicely indeed.
Yeah, seeing Chinese Taipei talking there, the engineer and the driver. Just probably talking about the choice on tyres. They're happy enough with their job, but yeah, I think they're the only car that went on wet. So just listen to that. It's pound coins, euros, dollars falling out. There'll be a fair bit of damage underneath that car, I would have thought, to the floor, the diffuser. Putting a bit of fuel in it, so they think they're going again, would be my cue. Also quite interesting to put fuel in during qualifying.
Yeah.
For every series I've raced in, when I read the regulations like you do with excitement, there is no refueling permitted mid-session. From a legality perspective, it stops people going to fumes, etc., etc. So if you could just check that for me, David, that would be very helpful.
Happy to help.
Thank you. But yeah, Lamborghini taking the front tyres off, checking for any damage. You sometimes get the stones in between the brake caliper and the wheel. The gap is very tight, but a stone can sometimes just go in between those two components and then foul the inside of the wheel and score the alloy so much you can actually wear all the way through the metal, and eventually that gives you a relatively lively puncture because the metal is no longer there to stop the air going. So you can hear the mechanics say, I'm going to take it off. Let's have a look. It would be good if we can see the inside of that tyre. You can see those tyre score marks. You see the silver marks, the circular disc motion there has been cutting through. They don't look too bad, but as a driver, I'd rather not see it and the team just tell me it's okay, to be honest, on that one.
Would you like to know what the regulations say?
Please, I'm waiting. That's why I paused.
Refueling is not permitted.
So I was right.
No fuel can be added during qualifying.
Oh, we make a great team, don't we? Don't we?
So you're not meant to refuel, but they have. The one lap that he'd done initially was done for track limits. Then he calls the red flag, but he's going to go back out again. And then the stewards for the GT Sprint, headed by very experienced race official Richard Norbury, will go through the regulations and the FIA code and everything else and work out what can be done and what should be done. But first of all, we need to get the session back underway. Pit exit will go green at 11:32, and the start time for the United Kingdom, for who's going to go out first? Well, Malaysia will be 11:34, won't it, if they're going to allow him back out. So the pit lane will be open in about a minute.
Yeah, and the Marshall...
Chinese Taipei did 2 laps, but we need Malaysia, ? Spain to do 2, Germany to do 2, and Turkey to do 2. Sorry to talk over you, Joe.
No, you're right. Chinese Taipei just got it in, didn't they? Spain didn't get any in, and Malaysia were on their second when they caused the red. So are they allowed to go for that second like United Arab Emirates were because it was on their first?
I would say they are allowed to go again, in the same way that the UAE was allowed back out.
But for only one shot at it.
Yes.
So you get 1 outlap, 1 push, rather than 1 out, 2 push, because they did their first but lost it to track limits.
Yeah, if you cause the red on your outlap, you get both.
The nice bit was that Jafar with Malaysia was about to lose both his laps with 1 track limit at T14. That second lap he went off wasn't going to count. So by causing the red flag, he's now given himself a chance to get a lap time that would have counted because he was about to have 0 laps counted out of his 2 from 1 track limit at T14.
I don't suppose you can count a lap either side of a red flag, can you?
No,
because there isn't really any benefit because then you've been in the gravel and you've also been in the pits in the meantime. Anyway, the clock is ticking on down. There are only 19 more minutes of Super Pole left.
Good.
And only 4 cars to go. Malaysia, Spain, Germany, Turkey. And the pit exit is now green. So Malaysia have got just over a minute plus the 10 seconds of the window to be out on track.
They've obviously been busy sorting the car. Hopefully that they've had that communicated to them. It looks like the car controller there in front of the last car towards pit exit is ready. So they should be ready to go. So hopefully the car will fire up shortly and will carry on its way. And hopefully we don't get the 3rd red flag of this short qualifying session.
Just define short for me, will you? Right, so it is going to be Malaysia at the front of the queue, ready to go, and their pit exit time for Malaysia is 11:34. It is 11:33 and 40 seconds, so they now need to get the engine fired up. The car controller, looking at his watch, will hopefully release the car within the appropriate 10 seconds to get it down the pit lane. The fans enjoying themselves, even if they've got an empty track to look at the moment, but they're going to see cars with GT stars at the wheel back out on track to determine the pointy end of the grid. Right, Malaysia on the way, and the car goes over the pit exit line, bang on 11:34, so that was very nicely timed.
Must make you very happy that. So he's just going past the scene of his crime. You can see the tyre marks all the way from turn-in to apex, now across the shot into the gravel where he just got pulled out. So we've now got some time to build some tyre temperatures, but again, I think they'll be quite flat-spotted. They were rotating a small amount as we were going backwards, but yeah, this is going to be hard for Jasmine Jafar here from Malaysia to set a lap time that I think he would actually be happy with in hindsight.
So Jasmine Jafar to do a lap time, but of course the veracity of the lap is up for grabs, isn't it? Because with that refueling question mark, nothing has yet come up saying that's under investigation. We're kind of jumping ahead of ourselves here, but we saw the fuel go in. The regulations say you can't. But anyway, it's not for us to apply penalties. The gravel's still spinning out the back of the car. So that could be another one that doesn't really feature on the grid. This will, though. This is Spain. This is Daniel Junqueira. And even though he's not been here, what did he say, for 13 seasons? Welcome back. And can he crown all of that with pole?
Yeah, he's got a good chance. Great package underneath him. As we look at the Lamborghini, almost Dick Dastardly style, wasn't it? Dropping gravel behind it for all its competitors to slip upon. It should be fully clear by the end of this lap. But yeah, tentative outlap from Jafar. Not really much weaving going on. Possibly just starting to feel the car. Is it okay after that excursion? He did have that in-lap to check, but yeah, until you really push, you won't know as a driver.
Yeah, Jasmine Jafar for an outlap. He's being ever so circumspect here, isn't he? Only now, as he comes out of turn 12, I would say, does he pull the pin. But the rest of the lap had been so cautious, possibly making sure there wasn't any gravel in any awkward place. But this still doesn't look like he's absolutely committed, does it, to turn 14? It looks as though he's going to have one lap and just make the best of it, really, but it doesn't, to the eye, look like a mega committed exit from turn 14. Again, he may not have the confidence in the car. You know, we've talked about him going off, but he may not have felt it was his error. He may have felt there was something in the car that did that, so maybe there's just that hesitation, that lack of confidence in the machine.
definitely up the grid. You can see the cars lurch under braking as well as he tried to use that painted area to open up the corner. Just think it doesn't have as much grip, so there's an imbalance right to left on the car. The right wheel's not having as much grip, and then the left wheel is gripping really well, so giving a bit of a strange sensation to the driver, but also the ABS working overtime not to create an issue like he had earlier on.
Right, so Jasmine Jafar doing a personal best, understandably, because he's nothing to gauge against, with his first lap time being taken off him for track limits. Danny Juncadella then goes through and starts a flying lap. Now you're back on board with Malaysia. This is Jasmine Jafar, and he's still having to fight the car a little bit.
I can still hear gravel pinging out as well. It seems to take forever to come out through the chicane. Can he brake very early, 10 metres earlier than we've been seeing on these onboards across this GT field? Out of the corner into T12. Is he going to sweep across? Juncadella goes purple in sector 1. There is Juncadella. This is going to be a fast lap if we can keep this pace up.
In a way, that second red flag has helped the last 3 to go, hasn't it? Because the road has been drying while they've been sitting in the pits. As here comes Malaysia, Jasmine Jafar down towards turn 14. He's up the curb. Remember, anything in the 134s, 35s is good at the minute. And it's a 33, 34, 35 as he goes across the line. That's second fastest, 135, 357.
Juncadella now through sector 2, 2 seconds up on Darren Lung's fastest lap at the moment. So where's this going to put them? Is this going to go sub 32? I think it possibly would. I think pole still could be a low 31. Juncadella still one more lap to go, of course, to improve on this lap time that we're about to set.
And of course he had a look at the track earlier on his way up towards the red flag, so his first lap time is going to be a 131.918 then. That's fastest so far by 2.5 seconds. Danny Juncadella is the fastest. Now you've got Finn Wiebelhaus, and he's doing exactly what he has to do, and that is go purple.
Purple, perfect, lovely start to his second day here at the FIA Motorsport Games. Sweeping out wide, confident over the curbs. You can see how much later he's braking than Jafar there. He was past the apex curb of turn 10 before he brakes really nice and tight as well. Using the road on exit, was that legal? I'll let race control that. Open up 12, use the curb on the inside. Don't dip a wheel in the gravel on exits. Follow the shortest distance round 13. Then release the lock. Try and get a straight line for 14 breakdown. Slight lock up there. Interesting, just a puff of smoke from the Mercedes. Legal at 14 as he blasts to the line.
Right, so Danny Juncadella's time is the one Wiebelhaus is aiming for. It's a 131.918. He's going to do a 131.652. Fastest for Germany, 1 minute 31.652. Ayhan Guven, Team Turkey on track. Juncadella on his second flying lap, and purple.
About to come through sector 2 now. Not an improvement, still up overall though, so this could be enough just a bit. We were wide there. Do you hear him have to breathe out of the throttle because he would have been wide into 14 now. Straighten the wheel, hard on the brakes. Release the brake once you're happy. Pick the throttle up if you're not going to run wide. Straightens the car up. Balance look good. What's he got?
31.9 his own best. 31.6 to beat. And Danny Juncadella will cross the line. 31.4, that's pole position. Danny Juncadella, 131.435. Ayhan Guven is on his first flying lap. Finn Wiebelhaus is on his second. So Guven had gone quick, but Wiebelhaus better still. Guven's first flying lap is going to put him where? He needs to be in the low 31s. It's a 131.5. He's gone second fastest.
So we're waiting on 2 more lap times. One for Wiebelhaus coming up, hopefully for him in around 24 seconds. Guven, one more chance as well. Coming through sector 2, this is good at the moment. Nearly 10th and a half up to take pole position. Car skipping over the curb. Titanium skid blocks on the Mercedes, always dramatic. Kicking sparks out of the back of the car into the last corner. Keep it legal, Germany. What's it looking like? Track limits okay. Pushing to the line. 130.14 to beat.
Can he do it then? Up to the timing line comes Finn Wiebelhaus, a 31.2 pole position, 131.240, fastest for the moment, because Ayhan Guven is still on track. Guven is now third, bearing in mind he's relying on his first lap time. What does the Delta tell you?
It's green at the moment. I can't actually read because of the contrast. I need a black number, please, Porsche, against that green box. I can see it's green, so it's good. We can see it's green from his sector. This is the last lap to be posted.
But green is not good enough. That needs to be purple. So he's got to dig deep in the middle sector and go purple here. Ayhan Guven does go purple. This should therefore be a lot more promising now for pole position. He's wide at 12. He's up the curb. Ayhan Guven then, absolute Porsche specialist, has got really one more corner to go. This long left. It tightens. He'll then pull the pin. Now coming onto the pit straight. The time he's got to try to beat is a 1:31.240. Up to the timing line he comes. It's 30.943 for pole position. Ayhan Guven. 1:30.943. We've saved the best till last. The best time of the session on the very last car across the line. 1:30.943. 0.297 of a second quicker than anybody else. Brilliant lap. And it didn't start quite as well as it could.
No, not a purple, but it did finish with 2 purple sectors there for Team Turkey. Com Ledegaard there, the team owner, team manager in the garage, looked not best pleased. I think he obviously expected it from his star driver, Ayhan Guven, the Turk, doing a mega job for Team Turkey. Pole position for the sprint race later this afternoon.
So the majority of drivers, as you would anticipate, doing their better time on the second lap, with the exception of the UAE. And Ayhan Guven making his way back round to the pit lane. Well, we were looking forward to that, and when it finally got going for those real stars, those manufacturer pros, if you like, and the faster of the silver drivers, that was well worth the wait, wasn't it? Brilliant laps by Junqueira, Wiebelhaus and Guven. So, pole position for Turkey, but there are no medals there.
No, it only gives you the best starting position. Still work to be done in the race, and the gaps are tight, aren't they? Especially between the top 3. So I think we've got a really good 3-car battle for the medals this afternoon. Big shout out to Team United Kingdom. First graded bronze driver there in 4th overall. Darren Long in front of Jafar, obviously with his issues. So there's going to be some good racing all the way down this field.
So Ayhan Guven then for Turkey, bringing the car under the drone back towards the pit lane, and he'll perhaps be on the radio now to the team. They'll be telling him where he needs to bring the car, whether it's to a scrutineering area, whether it's back to the garage. They'll be talking about the lap. Ayhan Guven will be reflecting upon that, no doubt, and thinking, great, that's the easy part done. Now I've got a 40-minute race to come. So well done to Turkey. Provisional pole position. Let's look at the results then at the end of Superpole to determine the order of the grid. Turkey from Germany, Spain 3rd from the United Kingdom and Malaysia, Lithuania 6th from Chinese Taipei, and then the UAE. Ayhan Guven outpacing Finn Wiebelhaus and then Danny Junqueira. Darren Lung 4th from Jasmine Jafar, then Alimantas Navikauskas from Peter Yang and Saif Alameri. But that is a provisional classification because we know there's a question mark over Lithuania for the pit exit and Malaysia as well for the refueling that we saw in the pits as well. But it is pole position for Team Turkey. Ayhan Guven, the fastest then, 0.297 of a second up. And again, that top 3 covered by under half a second. The GT Sprint is going to be a really good battle. And that will be coming up at 3 o'clock local time, that 40-minute race. So 3 p.m. local time for GT Sprint, with Turkey, Germany and Spain fighting over the medals.
Teams pushing the cars back into their positions, and they effectively go into the parc fermé condition straight away. So teams can't work on them, can't touch them. Just to make sure everything is to legality, the FIA will check that in the post-session scrutineering and make sure that the cars adhere to all the homologation papers, just as they should.
Indeed so. And Ayhan Guven there, the Red Bull sponsored athlete, will be very happy with that. He'll still be on the radio with the engineers. They'll just be reflecting on any information required. Germany's car rumbles down the pit lane because now that the session is over, they go down the pit lane, not back on track, but around the back so they can go into the garages, the way the garages are turned around. Right, number 71, Lithuania, has a penalty for being late out of the pit lane. It is of 16.6 seconds then.
Interesting.
Super pole for GT Sprint was a twice interrupted affair, but Lithuania was first out a little bit late in fairness, and straight away race control was on the case. A time was offered up, but as the United Arab Emirates Porsche found itself in the gravel, our first red flag flew. The circuit's still slippery, and that would catch out one or two over the course of the Super pole, where 2 flying laps determined a lap time. So it meant the UAE would be 8th in the times, 7th Chinese Taipei, 6th Lithuania, but a penalty brewing. The United Kingdom would be 4th, Darren Leung having been fastest for a time, but ultimately being ahead of Jasmine Jafar, who caused the second red flag by going off into the gravel down at turn 1. The car was dragged out. He did do a lap time and 5th quickest then in the end for Malaysia. Jasmine Jafar not looking overly confident on his push lap to get the tyres up to temperature. But then the fight for pole really began, and Dani Juncadella was the first one to take up attention. Team Spain would net 3rd. Team Germany would net 2nd. Finn Wiebelhaus bringing his car through briefly the quickest, but in the end, pole position would go the way of Ayhan Şengüven for Team Turkey. Fastest in the Porsche by 0.297 of a second. And for GT Sprint, a 40-minute race, it will begin with Turkey on pole position.